RMC was a regular corporate slave who was always working 78 hours a week, but he suddenly finds himself reincarnated in a fantasy world. This is usually a good thing to be reincarnated, and it was sort of good for RMC too. However, he reincarnated in the body of a noble who is a total illiterate. To make things worse, he doesn't have any special abilities either. Nonetheless, he gets to enjoy a delicious meal and spend a good time while bathing because he has maids tending to him. He is termed the son of a count, who does nothing but eat and play all day. He is enjoying himself so much that he doesn't even care to ask the name of the world where he has found himself. While the maids are bathing him, they tell him to go to bed early because his brothers will be returning the next day. Our MC is confused when the maid says this, and the maids believe that he is joking around. They tell him that his brothers are Leo and Tonio of the Palacio family. The moment he heard the Palacio family, he realized that it sounded pretty familiar. The moment it clicks in his brain, he pushes his head into the water in frustration because he has somehow found himself in psychedelia. Back in his past life, there was a game that he managed to find time to play. And this game was Psychedelia. It was a turn-based RPG where no matter which route the player took, the moment the 5 great sins appeared, the kingdom, the nobles, the cities, and everything came crashing down. The 5 great sins, which are what everyone knows, are greed, wrath, sloth, pride, and obsession. These 5 laid waste to everything, and among the destroyed houses is the Palacio County. The eldest son of the house is Leo, and he is known as the king of prostitution, while the second son, Tonio, is known as the drug king. The family was a bunch of trashy nobles who appeared in a side quest before the main story even began. Our MC cannot believe that he just found himself in the very first place that was crushed by the 5 great sins. In addition to how things are not going so well for him, he is reincarnated as the 3rd son of Palacio County, a mob villain, Elon Palacio. Elon lies on his bed watching in horror, while also praying to be sent back to his old trashy life because it most likely is better than the fate he is about to suffer. With tears in his eyes, he wonders about the purpose of a life that would be snuffed away from him in 10 years. In fact, he believes that it feels worse than having his wages withheld from him for an entire 6 months. He wonders why, as a reincarnated person, he doesn't even get a single perk to help save his life. Suddenly, it dawns on him that he has a perk at his disposal. And this is knowing about the contents of the game that takes place 10 years in the future. To him, this is basically the same thing as knowing the future too. Since he already knows this, he believes that he can get rid of the cause of the destruction before it even happens. With this in mind, he decides to try and rehabilitate the 5 great sins for the sake of a peaceful, noble life. They are nothing but kids, as they are. So he believes it should still be possible. 2 months after he decided on this, he received his personal knight, Yaban, in his office. Yaban informs him that he has managed to rescue orphans and place them in an orphanage that he pointed him to, and among them was a girl named Yutia. Alon is pleased to hear this news, and this just confirms his suspicion that Yaban is truly capable. Yaban is confused whether he is getting complimented or not because it is hard to tell with his expressionless face. Alon agrees with him and tries to let off a desperate smile, but this only makes him look even worse. This is pretty hard for him, since his original face was quite expressive, but it appears that his emotions don't show on his current face. Nonetheless, Yaban thanks Alon for the compliment. Apparently betrayal is rampant in the game, but Yaban is a rare top-tier supporting character who doesn't betray his master. The moment Alon found him, he hired him without hesitation. Yaban then confirms from Alon that the raid was to rescue Yutia, and he says yes. Yaban finally understands why Alon is interested in Yutia because even he, who has been a mercenary for many years, Yutia is not an ordinary child. Basically, she was pretty strong, leaving Yaban to wonder why she would allow herself to get captured easily. Alon then asks Yaban why he didn't bring the girl to the estate since it would be easier. Alon commends Yaban for the observation, and though it seems like he is letting her power go to waste, leaving her at the orphanage is all part of Alon's plan. Yutia Blutia is a member of the grotesque blood tribe who wields power from a contract with an indescribable being from another dimension. Yutia later grew up to become the sin of wrath among the 5 great sins. She was given a title that made her seem like a monster that deserved nothing but death. She was a monster who caused hundreds of deaths, but if she manages to grow up peacefully, she won't take part in the destruction. To Alon, he has managed to remove the first landmine, and since he can't give his real reason, he decides to give Yaban a fake reason for leaving Yutia there. Alon comes up with a stupid reason, and Yaban believes him. Alon mentions that the time is not yet right, and he tells Yaban to make sure that no one else knows about what they are doing. He also orders Yaban to provide anything that the orphanage needs for them. Alon then passes a letter to Yaban, telling him to give it to Yutia. Yaban asks if the letter is important, and Alon says it is a letter to help Yutia settle in. Alon believes that the letter would be great to calm her down, since she went through a harsh human experiment. Yaban is impressed that his master even wrote a letter, and he promised to safely deliver it. Even though he doesn't know if the letter will calm Utia down, Alon believes that he has to try first. Apparently he mixed the real message inside the pleasantries that he wrote in the letter. This was something he heard dozens of times while replaying the game. It was a calming message from the Archbishop that helps with the sin of wrath. However, this message came too late in the game, but Alon believes that sending Utia the message early should help put her in the right direction. Alon cannot believe that he is trying to befriend a monster, but since they worship a being from another world, he believes that it should work. When Utia receives the letter, she takes a moment to read it, and in that moment, Yeban can feel the immense magical power coming from her body, which is quite absurd. She is basically a strange child, totally devoid of emotions. Utia then asks Yeban if Alon was truly the one who sent the letter, and with fear creeping through his body, Yeban says yes. Utia lets off a really terrifying aura before asking Yeban why Alon himself didn't show up. Yeban cannot believe that the girl is already at the peak level at her age, which is why her mana can be visualized. Yeban then tells Utia that Alon said the time is not right yet. After hearing this, Utia finally calms down. And this is also thanks to the hidden message that Alon put in the letter. Utia knows that it is something only someone worthy of being her master can know of. With a joyous face and overwhelming aura, she mentions that she finally understands her master's will. Meanwhile, Alon, in his bed, is thinking of how he can make sure that he gets the next person on the list to help increase his seemingly short life. Soon afterward, Alon is in the library trying to get clues on the third sin when Yeban rushes in to tell him that he has managed to rescue the second sin that he mentioned. Even though he looks utterly exhausted, Alon asks Yeban if he treated the kid right. Yeban assures him that he did everything he asked after he rescued the kid from the illegal slave market. Suddenly, Alon's trash big brother Tonio enters the room and wastes no time using Alon as his footmat. He expresses his shock that someone as dull as Alon has decided to read books in the library. Alon keeps mute, but this pisses Tonio off and he screams at Alon, telling him to give a reply when he is being talked to by his elders. Alon cannot believe that the former owner of the body managed to survive this long because Tonio is always picking fights. Alon would have preferred to fight back at him, but he knows better. He quickly bows his head like a slave, telling Tonio that he would like to simply excuse himself from the library since his big brother wants to use it. Tonio laughs at Alon, saying he has finally known his place. Suddenly, a knife comes flying toward them, and it narrowly misses Tonio's head. It turns out that the knife came directly from the eldest son, Leo. Leo talks about how he doesn't want any racket early in the morning. The tension between the two immediately toughens up as they start threatening to kill each other. Alon gently crawls away from the two since he doesn't want any of their beef. The family was nothing but a side character that got wiped out very early, and even though they are a powerful family, the two trash brothers were always locked in a fierce battle for who was going to become the head of the house. One is known as the king of the flesh, while the other is the king of drugs. Basically the two are the kings of the underworld, and no one who wants to live a good life will dare mess with them. Alon manages to crawl out of the room while the two are turning everything upside down. Alon figures out that the best thing for him is to live as an incompetent trash if he ever wants to live long. Alon returns to his room and gets on his couch to rest. On the other hand, Yeban wonders how such an incompetent-looking person like Alon is able to uncover human experiments. Alon is someone who looks really frail, who can't even take care of himself. But for some reason, he knows about secret foreign affairs. Nonetheless, he considers Alon a really peculiar person. The last child he rescued is considered really dangerous, with powers that are considered to be world-ending. Basically, he was rescued in the kingdom of Kallian, where there was an illegal slave market. With this, Alon has been able to rescue the second sin, Deus. After Deus was sold into slavery, he was abused and passed around endlessly. Because of this, he ended up becoming the sin of sloth, which is among the 5 great sins. After Deus lost it, he wiped out kingdoms in the most horrific way that one wouldn't even think is possible. Even most players were traumatized by how cruel Deus was in terminating his enemies. Because of how dangerous he was, Alon told Yeban to treat him gently. Yeban then asks Alon if the letter he sent to Udia is about the second child, and Alon confirms this. In addition to the important message in the recent letter, he also added extra important information to it. Alon had told Utia to take care of the child because he was frail, and just as her master ordered, Utia did the right thing. She walks up to Deus to help him out of his desperate mental situation, while telling him that he has been chosen by a great person. Utia told Deus that he would get his revenge against those who wronged him if he could serve Alon with the utmost loyalty. With Utia's help, Deus is able to unleash his power but also keep it under control. Alon, on the other hand, is panicking because he doesn't know where the third boss is. Suddenly, Yeban enters the room to tell Alon that the second son, Tonio, is dead. This genuinely shocks Alon because Tonio shouldn't be dead yet. In no time, a funeral is arranged for Tonio, and even in the hall, their father is seen having fun with girls, as if he is not bothered that his son just died. On the other hand, Alon finds it really suspicious that Tonio died from an accidental fall because it didn't happen that way in the game. In the game, Leo struggled before he could finally kill Tonio. However, things are different because Alon can clearly see Leo laughing over Tonio's corpse. Nonetheless, Alon believes that the only thing he needs to do is make sure he rounds up the 5 great sins. A year later, everything at the house seems to be more stable than ever, since there is no cause for succession. And Leo has also taken over his brother's drug trade. During that 1 year, Alon basically became pen friends with Yudia. They are always sending letters to each other, and because of how good everything is, the orphanage keeps getting a long list of donations. Yaban then tells Alon that he has found a clue concerning what he is looking for. Alon is pleased to hear this because it basically means an ancient record about the third boss. Alon is pleased that he has finally found the third boss. To Alon, it's a peaceful evening, but the same cannot be said at a certain drug distribution site. 2 high-ranking officers under Leo arrive at the warehouse to find dozens of their members drenched in their own pool of blood. The ones still alive begin killing themselves, as if they've lost control of their bodies. They push knives into their throats in the most horrific ways. The 2 officers soon find themselves sharing the same fate as their counterparts too. It turns out that the person behind this is Deus, and he is being supervised by Yutia. After they are done wiping out the bad guys, Deus asks Yutia if their actions even mean a thing, and Yutia assures him that it does. Yutia asks Deus if he pities the bad guys, but he says no, since they are the ones causing people to do substances. He is only curious about what it means to their revenge plan. Yutia then assures him that it sets the stage for the return of their master, and since he is coming, they can't allow his throne to be in disarray. Deus finally understands everything Yutia has been preaching to him, and before they leave the scene, they make sure that the warehouse is utterly destroyed. They leave a blue moon sign on the grounds of the scene, as they consider themselves the Blue Moon, who are Alon's blade. 1 more year later, everything appears to be going smoothly as Yeban comes to report to him that he has managed to save the 5th kid too. The 5th has also been sent to the orphanage, and Alon cannot contain his joy that he managed to pull off his biggest worry. Because of his hard work, Alon doesn't mind feeding Yeban with the best goodies that he can get his hands on. To find the 3rd sin, greed was the hardest, but they were able to pull it off thanks to his gamer knowledge. Yeban did everything he could to make sure that everything worked out well in the end. Alon then tells Yeban that he is free to rest for a while because he has been running around for quite some time. Yeban asks him if the orphanage mission is done, and he says yes. Yeban is relieved to hear this, and he asks Alon if he isn't happy because he doesn't look like he is, but Alon assures him that he is. In fact, he claims that he is currently smiling even though his face says the opposite. Yeban has no choice but to go with what Alon claimed. Alon lies on the ground with the relief that everything is going the way he wants it. Because the kids only became evil thanks to their evil past, he made it his mission to rescue all of them, and he didn't think he would be able to pull it off before. Alon then asks Yeban about the status of the orphanage, and Yeban presents him with a letter. Yeban assures him that everything is going smoothly just as expected. Apparently the children were initially like broken dolls, but they have somehow managed to brighten up. Alon is relieved to hear this, since there won't be any reason for them to hire caretakers. Alon is proud of Yutia because he didn't expect her to be able to handle the pressure of taking care of the kids. Alon suspects that it is easy for her because of her background setting, which is tied to the orphanage. Alon then tells Yeban that with everything he has seen, Yutia is a good kid. From the letter she sent, she assures Alon that he has nothing to worry about because everything has been settled. Alon mentions just how proud he is to see the kids growing up properly. Since all 5 are growing up really well, Alon concludes that the environment plays a huge role too. Yeban then asks Alon when he plans to meet the kids, since he said there would be a time for it. Deep down, Alon has no intention of meeting the kids in person. He knows it would be good to meet them in person so that they can get closer, but he is terrified of their personalities that he has seen while playing the game. Nonetheless, he believes that it should be fine, since he rescued them before their awakening. Alon then lies to Yeban, telling him that he might try to meet the kids later in the future. Now that he has pulled off the rescue, Alon believes that the next thing on his list is to learn a bit of self-defense skills. Since magic requires talent, Alon has just what it takes to learn it. Yeban then asks Alon if he has heard of the Blue Moon. Alon replies that he hasn't, and Yeban explains that they are a group that has recently gained popularity by hunting down criminal organizations. Since it sounds like cleaning up trash, Alon doesn't see any reason why it should be a problem. Since the Blue Moon is not part of the game story that Alon knows, he believes that it will go away in no time. Yeban then drops the bombshell, saying the group has killed nobles, which is why he believed Alon might know them. Upon hearing this, Alon tells Yebon to start sleeping in the room close to his. Meanwhile, the leader of Blue Moon, Yutia, is asking her members about the week's report. Xiaolong, the Sin of Pride, reports that she has taken care of the slave traders' heads. Before eliminating them, she promised to let them live if they could guess her eye color, but for obvious reasons they couldn't, which ultimately led to her killing them all. The Sin of Greed, Ryan then mentions that all the bodies were buried cleanly. And for the illegal experiments, Radon, the Sin of Obsession, has taken care of them all. Yutia is glad to hear this, since everything appears to be going just the way she wants it. She commends all of them, saying that they all exist for the glory of the Blue Moon. Just then Radon mentions that there is a slight problem. The head of Avalon, the organization that they are targeting, is being ruled by Leo, the Count's eldest son. Apparently, Radon discovered a dangerous document when they were wiping out Avalon's base in the south. Basically, Leo is planning to terminate Alon after their father dies. When Yutia sees this, rage takes her over. 2 years later, Count Palatio, who has been sick, dies. The official report mentions that he died of cardiac arrest, but given his history of drug abuse, it is obvious what killed him. During the funeral proceedings, Leo learns that the Blue Moon has struck his business yet again. Alon hears his brother and his men talking about Blue Moon and realizes that they have finally started taking the organization seriously. Momentarily, the Count's funeral with 0 mourners ended very quietly. After the funeral, Yebon asks Alon what his next plan is. Yebon reminds him that by next year, Leo will inherit the title. Surprisingly, Alon tells Yebon that they are leaving the estate. This shocks Yebon, and Alon mentions that they are going south to a remote village called Rodmill. This is a remote village in the southern territory of the Palacio County. Without wasting time, Alon and Yebon got out of the mansion, and they were enjoying themselves in Rodmill until they were forced to return to the mansion just 3 days later. Something shocking and surprising has happened, and this is the death of the eldest son, Leo. Alon cannot believe that he is already back at the estate in just 3 days. Alon wonders why the eldest son is dead barely 3 days after he left. The cause of his death was a blade strike to the heart. However, the question of who killed him remains unanswered. Later on, Alon asks Yebon if he found anything unusual, and he says yes. Just then, Yebon asks Alon if he was the one who wiped out Avalon in one night. This question shocks Alon, and he finally realizes why the other nobles and guests present are scared to look him in the eye. On the day that Alon was going to Rodmill, Yebon asked Alon why he was not going to a city instead of a remote village. Deep down, Alon knows that the only place he can finalize his plan is in Rodmill, which is why he is heading there. Since he has saved the 5 great sins and prevented the world from getting destroyed, he believes that Rodmill is the right choice, since it has no connection to the original story. In addition, it even has a Palatio villa there. This is a separate house built apart from the main family residence. It is basically the perfect place to live leisurely as a noble. The only answer he gives Yebon is that there is a reason for everything. Yebon is tired of hearing this, as he tells Alon that he is always brushing things aside, but since he can't get the words out of his mouth, he just decides to let it be. It turns out that Leo was already planning to kill him. But since he is already leaving by himself, he decides to hold off on it. Alon even bows to him like he is scared before leaving. And all of these convince Leo to let Alon go. Nonetheless, he decides to tell his assistant Alman to follow Alon's carriage. Alman then asks Leo if he wants to kill Alon by asking him to follow the carriage. Alman wants to confirm if he really wants to kill Alon. Leo is shocked to hear this because Alman has always been the one who follows any order without a word of complaint. Leo is surprised that Alman is asking questions. Leo screams at Alman, telling him that his only job is to follow the orders, but Alman suddenly pushes his sword into his chest. Leo is stunned, leaving him to ask Alman why he betrayed him. Alman smiles, telling Leo that he likes playing games. Alman mentions that he has been playing along all this time, and it turns out that he is not really Alman, but Radon, the Sin of Obsession. Radon tells Leo before finishing him off that no one touches their master, the Great Moon. He mentions that they might be restricted from carrying out missions, but when it comes to the safety of their master, there is no question about this. Radon reveals that he intentionally waited for him to say he wanted to hurt Alon before finally making his move to take him off the board. Radon says he has been waiting for a whole 2 years just for him to make the wrong move. While he is bleeding out, Leo tells Radon that he won't be able to escape from his men. Radon then replies that he just made the extinction of Avalon his prime purpose with what he just said. Radon shakes his head for Leo, saying that the Great Moon, Alon, really did give him a chance to live, but he ruined it. As usual, Alon woke up to a beautiful morning which he considers paradise because he can wake up anytime he wants, eat whenever he wants, and enjoy his life as a noble. Alon is enjoying himself so much that he thinks of starting a toast business. He is busy munching on delicious food when Yaban enters the room to tell him that he just got a message. Alon's food immediately becomes bitter when he reads the letter to find out that he is requested to return to the estate because his brother has just died. With just those simple words, his so-called paradise ended in just 3 days. In grief, he returned to the estate, and he noticed that everyone was reacting to him in a very weird way. This is when Yaban asks him when he became a mastermind, who was able to destroy Avalon. It finally dawns on Alon that he has found himself in some really crazy simulation. Alon then asks Yaban to explain the situation of how he became a mastermind to him. Yaban simply replies that he is the only one who stands to gain anything from the chaos. Yaban continues by saying Leo was murdered after they left the compound, which is a perfect alibi for him. In addition, this ultimately promotes him to the position of being the heir with no rivals. Yaban mentions that since Avalon is gone, Alon would have no one causing him trouble. With all of these put together, Yaban says Alon has become the mastermind of the county. Yaban also glazes himself, saying he is a swordmaster and he is under Alon's command. Alon is ultimately confused by all of these, forcing him to ask Yaban if he's having fun, since he seems to be dancing around. Alon sits down to think about everything that has happened. Racking his brain, he doesn't think there is any organization strong enough to be able to take Avalon down in just one night. Suddenly, it dawns on him that Yaban once told him that there is an organization that hunts other organizations. Alon thinks the culprits might have been the Blue Moon. Yaban then tells Alon that with the information he got from the guild, there is no indication that Blue Moon is involved. Basically, the Blue Moon organization never leaves bodies, but they leave a mark. Avalon officials, on the other hand, were killed with the use of a sword. Alon finally realizes why they picked him as mastermind because he has an assistant who wields a sword. Since the Blue Moon didn't appear before the main story and there is no indication that they are the culprits, Alon starts to wonder who it might be. Later on, during their usual meetings, Utia asks her colleagues if there were any traces of their involvement in what happened, but they assure her that there were none. The only thing they left behind were stacks of bodies, and they did everything the way Utia wanted it. Utia smiles because her plan worked out so well. This basically ended Avalon, the powerful organization that once held the Asteria Kingdom to ransom. All it took Utia and her colleagues was 5 days to bring ruin to Avalon. Radon then tells Utia that the cleanup is not entirely complete. Utia asks him what he meant by this, and he explains that he found more nobles who are connected to Avalon. Apparently, the Altea Duchy appears to be the most involved culprit in everything. Without thinking twice, Utia tells the group that it is required of them to quietly remove the threat. Utia then asks her friends about the Information Guild, and they assure her that the guild doesn't have anything that links them to the whole annihilation. Basically, all the other guilds share the same view as the Information Guild because they are all calling it hell created by the Swordsmaster. Ryan then asks Utia if they should maintain surveillance, and she tells them to do this. Utia tells them how important it is that their master does not find out about everything happening. Deus mentions that Leo, who was Alon's brother, was the one who targeted him first. Utia then says they can't justify what they did since they didn't get an order from Alon. Utia reminds them that they are a sword, and they are not allowed to think on their own. Utia says the Blue Moon only moves by order given, and in addition she warns them that their master knows everything. With this in mind, she urges them to always live to the standards set by their master and never disappoint him. Deus is surprised that Utia, who is overwhelmingly powerful, is scared of Alon finding out about their exploits. Nonetheless, Deus cannot argue because everything they are doing is for Alon. A month later, Alon finds himself stuck with several chores. This is not the kind of life he envisioned for himself, but the life that chose him. Because of Leo's death, Alon has earned himself a bulk load of resentment. Surprisingly, Leo's death is not supposed to happen until 6 years later. Because of the entire family's sudden death, all the work fell back to Alon. To make things worse, everyone is working so hard and delivering their projects right on time. Alon remembers that during his father's tenure they were all working like bugs. Unknown to him, the servants and workers are all working really hard to make sure that they don't get on his bad side and end up in a ditch somewhere. Alon wishes that the servants would just sort things out themselves without involving him in it. Later on, Yeban commends Alon for reaching the 2nd tier of his magic practice in the space of 2 years. Yeban tells Alon that he possesses incredible talent, since it usually takes about 4 years of training to reach the 2nd tier. To avoid arguing with Yeban, Alon admits that he is talented when it comes to magic. Basically, Alon was putting everything he knew into magic defense because he was nervous. The technique he is also learning requires a lot of magic control, but Alon doesn't see himself getting good at it. Initially, Alon was excited because he thought once the plan was over, there would be no more danger. With this, he could self-study without stress. However, with the recent call for security, Alon has realized that his mana hole is really small. Basically, the mana hole one is born with is like an athlete's body time. which is fixed from birth. And when it comes to Alon's mana hole, it is quite small. It is too small because even his training can't cover it. Alon is thinking about his stressful life when Yebun informs him that a dance invitation has just arrived. Alon is surprised that he has been invited to a party dance, but he has no choice but to attend. Upon stepping into the hall, Alon complains that he is already tired. The party is a regular ball for networking among nobles, which is held in the southern region of the Asteria Kingdom. Alon also thinks of building connections with the ball party, since he will be the count soon enough. Alon figures out that having a good connection with other nobles might ensure his security in the future. Alon makes his move, but all of the nobles start to avoid him like he is some sort of disease. Yebun comforts him, telling him not to be upset, but Alon is not even upset. Alon already expected something like this to happen. Alon tells Yebun that he needs to excuse himself. Alon walks over to the drink table, while thinking about his move. Even though he is being avoided for being the black sheep, Alon is prepared to solve his current situation with the social skills that he claims he has secretly practiced. Upon picking up a wine cup, he walks to a lady while talking about how nice the drink is. He tells the woman that he would love to get some bottles to take home, and he tries to end the conversation with a smile, but just as expected, his smile looks horrible. With fear creeping through the lady's body, she tells Alon that she is going to tell her father to arrange it, and before Alon can say anything else, she runs off. Alon finds himself stranded, while the other guests in the house start whispering about how Alon must have threatened the innocent lady, forcing her to run away. In fact, they believe that Alon is worse than his late brothers. Alon tries to delude himself from the reality that the lady is scared of him, and he concludes that the lady must be shy. Yebun walks up to console Alon, and he mentions all the sacrifices he went through to try and make sure that everything comes out good. It finally dawns on him that the Palacio name is more dreadful than he even thought. Since the rumors have claimed that he had his brothers killed, he has automatically become the one person everyone doesn't want to associate with. Tired of the room, Alon tells Yebun that he needs to get some air. Meanwhile, Alon is being watched by a peculiar red-headed woman. Alon is reminiscing about his trash life on the balcony when a strange girl shows up, asking to speak with Alon. Alon is shocked that someone just spoke to him, and when he looks closely, it turns out to be Loria, the third daughter of the Altia ducal house. Alon is not entirely surprised that someone from the house is speaking to him. Alon remembers that the Altia family is one of the great villains of the game. They are basically the black sheep of the north. Alon figures out that whoever chose to speak to him is not an ordinary person. However, Alon wonders why he doesn't remember the girl, since he doesn't think he saw her while playing the game. Just then, Loria goes straight to the point, telling Alon that she needs his strength because she will soon be assassinated. Alon is shocked to hear this, and the girl continues by saying that up until that moment, she has been under her father's protection because she is the daughter of his mistress. However, her father has fallen ill, and she fears that her sisters are going to terminate her. Alon finally realizes that it is all about survival, and then it dawns on him that he doesn't remember the girl because she died before the main story of the game began. Loria continues by pleading with Alon to help her, and Alon gives his reply saying he is not going to help. Loria continues by saying she is not asking for his help for free. Loria promises Alon half of the duchy if he can help her. Alon ignores her, saying he is leaving. Alon admits that Loria is in a tight position, but at the same time, he will also be putting himself in danger if he helps her. Even if he wants to help, Alon knows that he can't because, unlike the rumor, he is just a talentless dude. Just as he is about to walk through the door, Alon's conscience stops him and he turns around to talk to Loria. He tells her that something good will happen for her, and deep down, he hopes that she actually meets someone who can help her. Meanwhile, the Sins observing Alon have noticed that Loria has approached him, and they deduce that telling Utia is the best option before acting. Ryan then tells Deus that he might not need to report the situation since Loria is the only Altia who is not affiliated with the bad things that they are doing. This in turn excludes her from being Radon's target. Deus agrees that this makes things easier because the other Altias will be dealt with. Ryan mentions that Utia has told them to make sure that all information flow is cut off to make sure that the Avalon incident never gets to Alon. Alon is walking through the hall by his lonesome self when he is suddenly approached by the redhead lady. Alon is initially confused whether he is the one being greeted or someone else. Alon nervously replies to the greetings, and with the way the girl is walking and her aura, Alon can see that she is a shady person. Alon tries to remember who she is because he has definitely seen her face in the game. In addition, he figures out that whoever talks to him isn't normal. Alon finally remembers her name, Kalia Zenonia, and he walks up to her to offer his greetings. Kalia is shocked to see that Alon actually knows who she is. Alon tells the lady that he knows her since she is quite a famous person. Apparently there are 3 great houses in the kingdom of Asteria. The house to the north is House Altia. The house in the east is House Palacio, and in the west is the degenerates of Zenonia. It turns out that Kalia is the eldest daughter of Count Zenonia. If Palacio is considered a gang, Zenonia is a more refined, corporate-style syndicate. Even though he needs some noble connection to live a peaceful life, Alon fears that he shouldn't involve himself with the Zenonias. Alon continues with the compliment by telling Kalia that she is famous because she is beautiful, and Kalia thanks him for the compliment. Kalia says she would like to talk more, and Alon agrees, but mentions that there are lots of eyes watching them. Deep down, Alon just wants the lady to let him go his way. Kalia smiles, saying Alon is just as the rumor said, but she lets him know that she would like to see him again. Alon is surprised by this, leaving him to wonder what the lady meant by it. Meanwhile, Deus and Ryan are still monitoring the situation, and it appears that something more concerning has come up. Deus tells Ryan that there is a weird dude who is tailing Alon. Since there are no direct orders concerning this, Ryan suggests that they observe, but move to elimination if needed. Later on, Alon and Yeban head to a canyon that Alon has reportedly been looking for. Yeban is skeptical about the whole thing, and he tries telling Alon that the insides of the canyon are dark even though they are in broad daylight. Alon, on the other hand, is rejoicing that he has finally found his objective. He prays that he is at the right site because he might as well fall into depression if it turns out to be the wrong one. Upon entering, Alon is relieved to see that it is exactly what he was looking for. Basically, it was easy to find in the game, unlike what he just went through to know its location. Alon apparently came to the canyon because of a certain labyrinth, the Labyrinth of Whispers. If he can solve the riddles in 8 chambers, he stands a chance to win a valuable artifact as his reward. Since he still remembers the whole walkthrough, he believes that it is time he savored the joy of level 1 grinding. Alon is blown away when standing at the entrance of the labyrinth, since it is his first time seeing it in real life. Yeban then mentions that the canyon appears to have been built by hand, leaving him to question how Alon knows the place too. Alon casually mentions that he comes here often, and this shocks Yeban. Realizing that Yeban is already overthinking it, Alon tells him that he is only kidding. Upon stepping into the labyrinth, they encounter several monsters hanging from the roof, waiting for them to get the riddle wrong so that they can be crushed. While Yeban is freaking out, Alon remains calm, and this shocks Yeban. Alon just focuses on the riddle, while Yeban is racking his brain on how he has failed several times in trying to figure Alon out. Yeban thinks deeply about it, and he realizes that none of the missions that they have conducted have ever been related to each other. From taking down an evil organization to saving a slave to paying off someone's debt, to helping an orphan, and several others like it. This makes Yeban question how Alon knows the labyrinth when Alon doesn't even leave the estate. Just then, Alon mentions that he has gotten the riddle right, but they need to wait for the giant hand to finish its thing. Even though Yeban is curious about Alon, he knows that something good always comes out of every mission that they undergo. The door starts to open, leaving Yeban to wonder what exactly Alon is planning again. When the door finally opens, they are met with countless treasures sitting in the large room. Standing in the distance is a gauntlet with rings on it. Apparently, Alon's only mission is the black ring on one of the fingers. Yeban is surprised to see that this is their only goal because it appears to be totally useless. Alon retrieves the ring and realizes that it is too big for his hand, but he is taking it nonetheless. He tells Yeban to drop the treasures that he has packed because they would only bring trouble to them. As they leave the labyrinth, Alon assures Yeban that there is nothing dangerous on the way out. Alon is thankful for the walkthrough because it made things easy for him. Momentarily they run into a bit of a problem. A bunch of stone golems have blocked the way, and Yeban is already thinking of how he can get Alon out of there. Just then, Alon tells him that he has nothing to worry about because he will handle the golems. Yeban tries to tell Alon that escape is their #1 priority, no matter what it is that he is planning. Alon walks toward the golems while raising the finger holding the ring. Yeban is worried that Alon is going to get himself killed because his tier 2 magic is useless against the golems. Once he is close enough to the golems, Alon uses the ring to activate the constraint instruction. Time stops, and Alon finds himself in an empty dimension, where the system tells him that he has 2 constraints that he can enact. Alon remembers that in the game his current position has a selection window. Staring into the abyss is a giant face, and Alon believes the reward for clearing the labyrinth is the constraint instruction. As the name implies, it is an absorption-type artifact that imposes restrictions on the user in exchange for power. The voice that just spoke to Alon made everything feel very real. Alon then mentions his first constraint. After reciting the spell, the being asks him what he plans to gain, and Alon mentions that he would like to twist the laws of the world a little further. Once he has laid his claim, the system grants his first constraint, and for his second constraint he follows the same procedure, and the system asks him what he seeks by this. Alon simply replies that his request remains as just before. The being takes a minute before answering Alon, and Alon fears that he has messed things up. Alon knows that choosing both seals and words for the constraint gives the highest magic attack power. While he was playing the game, he mastered all the hand signs and phrases, which means that his request is supposed to be granted. Just then, the being grants his request, and the voice tells him that he is considered really important to have remembered everything related to the forgotten god. The voice then tells him to carry on the will of the forgotten god, leaving Alon confused. After the being is done talking, the ring on Alon's hand gets absorbed, which is a sign that the constraint worked successfully. Just then, Alon returns to the real world when Yaban is trying to get him out of the golem's way. However, Alon resorts to his magic power. But even after using his entire mana, the sphere of lightning that he created remains small. Since his own magic power is trash, he decides to try out the constraint's power by giving it the price that it demands. With just a flick of his finger, Alon sends the ball of magical light into the midst of the golems, and the moment the attack hits, they all crumble into tiny pieces. As usual, Alon maintains his casual, sleepy eyes, while Yaban is totally blown away by what he just witnessed. Once the golems are out of the way, they start navigating their way out of the cave, and Yaban asks Alon if he has been hiding his true power all along, but Alon says no. Yaban argues that in all of his long years of being a mercenary, he has never witnessed something like what just happened. But Alon maintains that it is nothing but a second-tier magic. Deep down, Alon is actually freaking out, because he didn't remember the magic being that powerful when it was being used in the game. Alon remembers that in the game, a spell can be strengthened with the use of an incantation. And what he just did is increase the potency 5 times the usual number of times with the number of incantations that he used. By doing this, he was able to acquire something entirely different, which is a greater power of a higher magnitude. Even Alon is surprised at how devastating the magic is, even though it is a second-tier magic. After a few minutes of navigating through the cave, they finally make it out of the cave, and Yaban heaves a sigh of relief that they are out. Yaban lazily sits while complaining about how tiresome his current task is, compared to actual combat. Yaban turns to Alon, asking him who designed such a terrifying place, and this is when it dawns on Alon that the labyrinth actually had another name, which spread around the community. It was known as the Labyrinth of Whispers, and it got everyone's attention. Alon used the opportunity to tell Yaban that it was created by a dude named Palaon. When Alon realized that Yaban was about to start asking more about the labyrinth, he dragged him up, telling him that it was time they left. Alon tells Yaban that there is still something he needs to do once they return, and his work ethic impresses Yaban. When talking about the magic, Alon knows that a sigil that matches a spell element increases its potency, and this was the basic rule in the game. However, things were a bit different in real life because the visuals stayed the same. While the attack stats increased, the sigil basically altered the spell itself, and Alon starts wondering if his mana control has gotten so good that he was able to perceive the changes in how things work. Since he is not sure about this, he decides that he would have to test his theory once his mana recovers. Nonetheless, he is glad that everything turned out pretty well. Unknown to Alon and Yaban, they are being watched by one of the sins. The girl makes her way to the labyrinth to study the writings on the wall, and she can clearly see just how seemingly powerful Alon is. She is impressed by everything that she witnessed because Alon appears to know everything and even move according to what she knows. She is blown away by the fact that she believes that Alon was the dude named Palaon. In addition, she is more interested in the fact that the incantation that Alon used was not recorded in the books present in the ancient library. All of these put together make her reverence for Alon go even higher than before, and she finally comes to the conclusion that everything Utia said was true. Just then, Deus joined her, and she asked him if he was able to obtain the information he had gone for, but he said no, claiming that his target died before he got what he needed from him. She is a bit disappointed by this, and lets it be known that they would have to report it to Utia for more insight. Since their job in the area is done, the two fly off like wizards. Meanwhile, at the Zenonia Count's house, Kalia can't keep Alon's name out of her mouth since she met him during the ball. Apparently there is something sinister going on in the Count's house. Everyone believes that Kalia's father has control of everything. But unknown to them, he is nothing but a puppet to his daughter. The main person running the house is none other than Kalia, while her father is just a figurehead. But her conversation with Alon leaves her suspicious that the dude has found out. She is still thinking about this when one of her attendants comes running to her, telling her that she needs to come to her room immediately. She rushes over to see her spy lying dead in the room. However, she doesn't see the need to panic because the seal she placed on him didn't activate, which means he didn't divulge any information before his death. Nonetheless, Kalia can see that the body was deliberately placed in her chambers. This leaves her even more concerned about how she was found out. To Kalia, she believes that Aelin is the one responsible, and she assumes that Alon figured everything out during their conversation together. Unknown to her, Alon is just a regular dude napping in his caravan and oblivious to world politics. On the other hand, Loria is making her way home, and she is entirely worried because her meeting with Alon didn't go as planned. With the little time she spent with Alon, she can see that he is not someone to be made an enemy of, and even though Alon is her last lifeline, she understands the fact that he would not agree to a deal that would not benefit him. Loria has basically been stripped of power by her siblings. From the eldest son, Timalian, the eldest daughter, Marianne, the second daughter, Philine, to the second son, Kig. Loria arrived at the family mansion thinking about how she had managed to survive thanks to her father's influence. Now that her father is gone, she is left with the question of what she is supposed to do. Just as she enters the house, two maids come running over to her looking all concerned while shouting her name. The maids tell her that her siblings Kig and Philine send themselves to the afterlife, and the news of this shocks Loria to her bones. She doesn't want to believe that ruthless fellows like Kig and Philine would willingly wipe themselves out. Loria then asks the maids about Timalian and Marianne, but she gets her answer when they step into their rooms to find their bodies hanging off of each other. Loria is left in total shock as she stares at her siblings' bodies, and while the entire chaos is unfolding, one of the Sins is seen leaving the area with a smile on his face after a successful mission. The whole estate is thrown into chaos, since no one understands what on earth is happening. Suddenly, Loria remembers what Alon told her. At the end of their meeting he had told her that good fortune would find her. Because of this, Loria immediately comes to the conclusion that Alon is behind everything that happened. With the sudden deaths of her siblings, Loria suddenly becomes the sole heir of the Altia Duchy. Even though she is supposed to be glad or relieved, Loria falls to her knees in terror because she believes that she has made a deal with a demon. Nonetheless, she comes to the brave conclusion that there is no turning back because she has seen firsthand what happens to people who betray Alon. Loria toughens up, saying she only has to move forward with the path that she has chosen. 2 months after this, Alan is in his office when one of the attendants shows up with an apparent gift from the Altia Duchy. Alan opens up the box, and he is blown away when he sees a nice bottle of wine. Yaban tells him that the wine is quite special because each bottle costs several thousand gold, which is why it is rare. Coupled with the bottle of wine is a handwritten note from Loria Altia herself. Alan is surprised when he sees this as he starts to wonder why Loria would send him such an expensive gift. He is forced to ask the attendant if the gift is really for him, since he doesn't see any reason as to why Loria would want to honor him. The attendant assures Alan that the gift is for him because Loria personally prepared it for him, and she ordered it to be delivered by hand. The moment the attendant addresses Loria as the Duchess, it suddenly dawns on Alan that something is off. This is when he realizes that the youngest child in the house, who is Loria, has somehow become the Duke of Altia. At the Altia estate, Loria is trying to settle into her new position as the Duke. She finds herself sitting in the Duke's office, which is a restricted area from her in the past. Even though the entire scenario surrounding her siblings' deaths was questionable, she avoided all forms of suspicion because she had a good alibi, which was the ball. Even though her secret organization had been wiped out by her siblings, and by the time she returned to the mansion, she was basically a nobody, everything changed for her with Alan's assumed interference. This leaves Loria wondering just how far ahead Alan is thinking. It turns out that she has unified all of the organizations under Altia, but she is not naive enough to think she can take on Alan's superior power. With this, Loria assumes that Alan still wants something else from her, and she believes that it is the underworld network of Altia. Even though she has come to these conclusions, she believes that she just has to focus on what is at hand while waiting for Alan to contact her. With a bright smile on her face, she wonders if Alan liked the wine she sent to him. Back in Alan's office, he is freaking out because he can't believe that Loria is now the Duke, even though she was being targeted just a few months back. Without being told, Alan can see that there is something strange at play. A couple of months later, which is 5 years before the story began, Yaban addresses him with the title of a count. This comes as a surprise to Alan, and Yaban reminds him that it is almost the new year, and his succession to become a count is near already. Alan is totally blown away because he never saw himself becoming a count in the plan that he drew out for himself. Nonetheless, he can't deny the fact that he is enjoying the perks that come with becoming a noble. Yaban then hands him a letter from Yudia, and Alan asks Yaban if he has gotten any information on the assassins who sent Leo to their ancestors, but he says no. However, he assures him that the Information Guild is still working on it. Yaban asks Alan why he is so interested in the whole investigation, and he demands to know if he is interested because of revenge. Alan then replies that he just wants to be prepared for anything that comes. After Yaban is done teasing him about the whole count title, Alan opens the letter from Yudia, and it is just as usual. Nonetheless, Alan appreciates the monthly letters because they provide some sort of warmth to his cold lifestyle. Alan smiles just like a regular proud dad would smile, even though he has never seen any of the kids before. Alan then asks Yaban how old the kids would be, and he lets him know that they are about to reach the age where they step into society. In fact, some of the kids who are in the orphanage with them have left earlier. After getting this vital information from Yaban, Alon realizes that it might finally be time he lets the five go. Yaban is surprised that Alon is willing to let them go, and Alon tells him that they are all grown up already, so it is time they think about their futures. Alon believes that the five have grown past the age where they would awaken as sins and can finally integrate them into the society. Apparently each of the sins had a narration revealing its specialty. Utia has the talent for faith, Deus has the talent for swordsmanship, Rhine has the talent for research, Siolang has the talent for combat, and Radan is special when it comes to leadership. Alon is convinced that they are going to shine if he can place them in the right positions and environment. Because of this, Alon decides that he's going to give each of them a gift, which is his plan from the start. After he is done sorting out everything he needs to, he sends them individual letters via Yaban. Not long after this, Utia received the letters, and she told her comrades that they had received a new directive from the upper echelon. She tells them that the directive this time around is special because it was sent to them individually. The five receive the letters in joy, and they start rejoicing as if they have won the lottery. However, before they open the letters, Utia suggests that they read the old letters first because Alon's directives are always top tier. The others are surprised and impressed when they hear this because Utia was the only one who got to read the letters before. Utia believes that they all have the clearance to read the letters now, since they have received individual directives. Utia opens one of the letters for them to see, and it is nothing but basic greetings. The other kids are confused because it sounds very ordinary, but Utia kicks in quickly, telling them that Alon had told them from the beginning to disguise the letters as normal conversations. Utia then shows them what she claims to be the first directive after the first greeting letters. Inside the letter, Alon told them how his second brother used him as a chair, and Utia tells them that this is nothing but an elimination order for them. She also points to the part where Alon seemingly entrusted her with the Blue Moon organization. Utia then tells her comrades that they are to read the letters just the way she did, so that they can get the directives correctly and be able to effectively carry out their mission. Deus then cuts in, asking if it is not better for them to visit Alon in person if they are trying to avoid any leakage of information. Utia then replies with a stern face and voice, telling Deus that their mission is to follow. This sends chills down Deus's spine, and he replies that he is fully aware of what is at stake. Since they have gotten this out of the way, Rina suggests that they read the new directive. Upon opening the letter, Deus realizes that he is being sent to Caliban, which is the land of knights. Reen, on the other hand, is told to head to Colony, which is basically a desert. The other two also check their letters, and they are sent to Raxus and Lartania, while Utia is ordered to go to the Holy Kingdom of Rosario. Inside the letter, there are also instructions on what they are to do. Deus is surprised that he was told to become a knight, as he doesn't see any reason for this. Nonetheless, Alon has assured them that he would continue to sponsor them. In addition to that, Alon attached the location of a gift to the letter. Before they disperse, Utia reminds them that mentioning the Blue Moon is utterly forbidden unless Alon himself mentions it first. With each of them honoring the directive, they get their affairs in order, and they depart to their respective designations. 3 months later, Alon is still researching the magic in the world, and he has not seen what he's looking for. Since he is stuck at a crossroads, he decides that he has to experiment with himself. Alon then remembers the assassins again, and he asks Yaban about them. But Yaban lets him know that there has been no progress yet. Deep down, Alon figures out that everything happening is a result of the butterfly effect of what he has done, and it has somewhat become uncontrollable. A clear example of this is Loria. She should have died, but she has suddenly become the Duchess of Altia, where she is now building up a terrifying power in the underworld. Alon then tells Yaban that there is no need for them to investigate the assassination again. Yaban is surprised to hear this, but Alon has figured out that it would be better if the whole situation remains unknown. He doesn't want to dig into anything that is going off quest because he is trying to avoid any disastrous consequences. He knows for a fact that the secret organizations don't interfere unless something harms them, and he doesn't want to touch the hornet's nest. Yaban follows his boss's orders and assures him that he won't investigate again, but he lets him know that Deus has been knighted in Caliban. Alon takes the news with great joy because it is something worth celebrating. Barely 3 months after this, Yaban informs Alon that Deus has created a knight order. This shocks Alon because creating a knight order means Deus is expert level or above, even though he hasn't even been knighted for long. Yaban agrees with Alon, saying Deus is truly an overwhelming talent because Caliban is known to be strict when it comes to their knighthood. 6 months after this, which is 1 year after the 5 sins became independent, Alon has fully become a count. Alon is in his office when Yaban walks in, and as usual, he has some news for him. Yaban reveals that Deus has become one of Caliban's 5 swords, a master knight. The news of this sends a shiver down Alon's spine, causing him to drop the book he was holding. Sweat ran down his face as he asked Yaban to confirm if he heard right. This is because swordmasters are the only ones who can become a master knight. In the game, a swordmaster is a very powerful being who has surpassed the aura blade, causing him to awaken a unique ability called derivation. Alon then asks Yaban if Deus is a swordsmaster, but Yaban says it is not definitive yet, since he hasn't created a derivation yet. Nonetheless, the country still went ahead to grant him the title of a master knight because he beat the fourth sword. In addition, Caliban had lost a master knight to the northern barbarians because they had been at war for over a decade. Yaban mentions that it takes at least 15 years to understand and wield mana, and derivation might take decades. Reinhardt, who was the first sword, became the youngest master knight at the age of 32. Alon can attest to how strong Reinhardt is, but even with how strong he is, it took him over 20 years to reach his peak state. However, Alon is blown away by the fact that Deus has reached the level of a master knight in just 1 year, even though he didn't even know swordsmanship from the start. Since derivation is the only thing missing, Alon believes that Deus has what it takes to surpass even Reinhardt as a swordsmaster. Suddenly, Alon starts thinking about the benefits he might get from nurturing the kids the right way. But he quickly removes this thought from his head. He realized that he should be grateful that the 5 didn't awaken as the 5 sins, and bring destruction to the kingdom. Alon finally comes to the quick conclusion that the kids doing well is the main thing that he needs to focus on. Meanwhile, in the central region of Caliban's capital, Kurdam, there is a high, noble residential district where the Knight Order resides. Standing by the window and staring at the great view of the city is Deus, who is now the captain of the Eclipse Knight, and the youngest Master Knight. Deus lets off a good smile when his sister waves at him from outside the building. Deus remembers how everything played out until that very moment. He remembers losing everything to the bad guys, known as the Black Ones. Because of this, he was taken over by rage and hatred. He found himself locked up, and even though he was saved by Alon, he didn't think this was enough reason for him to be loyal to him. He was only loyal to the promise that he would avenge what he lost, and because of this, he became a member of the Blue Moon. Deus started working as an operative and taking on dangerous missions without caring about his own safety. For years, he was going on missions that would bring him a step closer to the Black Ones. After years of service, he finally received his first personal directive, and inside the letter was an instruction, telling him that there was a gift in a small inn in Caliban South. Even though Deus has never been the one to be hyped about gifts, he still decided to check it out. Deus entered the inn, and his eyes lit up in shock at what he saw inside. The gift Alon had prepared for him was the family he thought he had lost forever. It was his sister standing in the inn, and Deus rushed over to hug her tightly as tears ran down his face. Deus had believed that his sister, Shilly, was dead, but there she was, standing in front of him. Deus asks Shilly what happened after they separated, and she explained that she was kept in isolation by the bad guys while she waited for her turn to be killed. In the course of this, she escaped but was caught again later and sold to slave traders. As fate would have it, Yaban appeared and saved her, and since then, she has been enjoying the gracious hands of Alan. Shilly showed her brother a letter sent to her from Alan, assuring her that she is safe, while staking his family's name on it. Shilly lets her brother know that she is grateful for everything that Alan has done. When Deus saw this, he was extremely blown away because Alan didn't only protect his sister, but even put his family name on the line for her. Deus was stunned and in disbelief at how Alan knew about his family, since he never told him. Even Utia didn't know the full details of what happened, but Alan was able to cover everything. This convinces Deus that Alan practically knows everything, and it is in this moment that Deus finally decides to subject the totality of his loyalty to Alan. Now that his sister is standing in front of him, Deus is happy that Alan overlooked his foolishness in questioning his supremacy. Deus's only target was vengeance, but the gift of his sister was incomparable, and because of this, he became more than a fanatic. In fact, he has made it his life mission that he has to repay Alan's kindness. Deus's target is to attain the top echelon in Caliban and become a master knight so he can create an elite guard composed of the best swordsmen, and that dream is already coming to pass. Deus is determined to face any hardship whatsoever until the day that he is able to repay his debt to Alan. Until then, Deus is ready to prove himself beyond what is expected of him. As part of his endeavor, he and the Eclipse Knights soon depart on an expedition to fight the barbarians. Meanwhile, Alan is feeling a semblance of peace, and he believes that this is because the kids are all grown up. At the same time, Alan has devoted himself to research since he came back from the labyrinth. At this point, he has come to a conclusion on his current research results. With what he put down, he figures out that refraction enhances the imperfection of a completed spell, thus expanding its area of effect. Repulsion, on the other hand, crushes the form of whatever is fired, which causes the projectile to transfer. Just like these, Alan has put together all the variables of the magic that he is researching. He has also figured out that he can only use magic once a day, which is thanks to his small mana core. Nonetheless, Alon has concluded that magic is fun, even though he initially debated that it was just for self-defense. Since he has been on the research for the past 2 months, he finally decides to test out the results. Alon pulls himself together and he starts to cast the necessary spells in the order in which he has analyzed them. From fixation to compression to collapse, he is able to produce a powerful, bright attack spell that looks absolutely terrifying. Alon is blown away because everything worked out well, and he finally realizes that the order of the phrases is quite important too. He is still staring at the magnificent creation in front of him, when he hears a strange voice behind him, expressing their shock. Alon turns around to see Kalia and her mage beside her, and they are both terrified of what is staring them in the face, which they refer to as origin magic. Alon is shocked when he sees Kalia standing behind him, leaving him to wonder why the lady is there. The mage with her screams in horror because origin magic is something only a 7th circle mage can wield or even achieve. When Alon hears this, he is left confused as he starts to wonder if a low-level trash mage like himself is already being considered to be a 7th circle mage. Later on, Kalia and her mage sit in the reception room, waiting for Alon to show up. Kalia looks totally unsettled after what she witnessed minutes earlier. The reason why she came to Alon's territory in the first place was to confirm the extent of what Alon knows. She also wanted to know the capability of the organization that was backing Alon. However, what she and her mage found was totally different. Kalia cannot believe that her mage, Bianca, who is an arrogant 5th-rank mage, is actually terrified of what he witnessed while watching Alon. To put into perspective, Bianca was expelled from the mage tower for inhumane experiments, and he is powerful enough to wipe out battalions without breaking a sweat, but the same man was crumbling in terror in Alon's presence. Kalia is left to wonder if what she witnessed earlier was truly origin magic, just like they suspected. Moments later, Alon enters the room, and he asks the two why they have come to his estate. Kalia quickly apologizes for dropping in without prior notice. She also apologizes for running into him while he was conducting his business, claiming that she was only searching the estate for him. Alon calms her down, telling her that she is not going to hold what happened against her. However, Alon tells Bianca and Kalia that the magic that they witnessed him use was not origin magic. He tells them that he is just a 2nd-rank mage who is not capable of wielding origin magic. Alon turns to Bianca, saying he is pretty sure that he sensed the fact that the magic he used has no actual function. It is basically a magic that is useless in both defense and attack. With a stern voice and overwhelming aura, Alon tells the two that they have to keep what they saw to themselves. Bianca quickly cuts in, assuring Alon that he didn't see clearly. Kalia is shocked when she sees this, because she can't believe that someone as arrogant as Bianca can be using honorifics while talking to Alon. Alon is glad that they have sorted out the misunderstanding, and he asks them why they have come to see him. Kalia then reveals that they were only in the area and thought it would be nice if they paid their respects, which means they have nothing of importance to discuss with Alon. Alon is a bit disappointed to hear this, and he lets them know that he has a lot to attend to, so he doesn't have the liberty to sit around joking with them. Kalia stands up to acknowledge Alon's brief presence with them and tells Alon that she and Bianca will now take their leave. Just as they are about to leave, Alon tells Kalia that she should consider visiting Loria if a companion to talk to is what she seeks. Alon lets Kalia know that there is a chance that they are going to get along well. Even though Kalia is skeptical, she assures Alon that she is going to take his suggestion into consideration. After their brief discussion, Kalia and Bianca leave, and as they leave, Yeban turns to Alon, asking why the trash family would come to see them. Alon replies that he actually has no idea what the Zenonia want with them. Alon is worried that things would definitely go south if the rumor spread that he used origin magic. He might as well see power-drunk people running after him since they are in a fantasy world in the first place. At the same time, Alon doesn't think Kalia would visit Loria because they are fierce rivals in the underworld. As they ride away from the estate, Kalia turns to Bianca to ask him if Alon's magic was truly origin magic. Bianca then replies that it wasn't origin magic. Bianca explains that origin magic is a magic that draws its own laws onto the field of total principles. It is a chance and privilege granted to supreme archmages. But Alon's magic was entirely different. Bianca reveals that he activated his observation eye and saw Alon's magic. The field of magic was essentially being torn apart, and Alon was twisting the principles. He was collapsing laws, but was still able to manifest the spell, which is a miracle that defies all logic and reason. With a horrifying face, Bianca reveals that behind Alon's magic was the power and work of a forgotten great god. Just by thinking about it, Bianca's head is melting away, and he tells Kalia that he once received praise for pursuing ancient knowledge, which is known as the magic of the Forgotten Era. Because of his knowledge of what he knows and what he saw, Bianca tells Kalia in all terror that she should never think of opposing Alon, or even think of making an enemy of him. After hearing this, Kalia concludes that she has no reason to figure out what Alon wants, and decides that visiting Loria might just be the best option, since she is nothing but a pawn to Alon. 5 months after this, which is 2 years after the kids got their independence, Alon asks Yaban if there has been any update about the 5. Yaban lets him know that there is no update about the 5, but there is some important news that he needs to know about. It turns out that the Zenonia County and Altia Ducal have formed an alliance, and the news of this shocks Alon. He doesn't want to believe that the two pillars of the underworld have come together. He holds his head in frustration that he managed to escape a calamity from the 5 sins. But the world is about to perish, thanks to the underworld alliance. It finally dawns on his dumb self that Kalia must have taken his advice the other day. Realizing that he might have messed up, Alon tries to delude himself with the fact that the alliance between the two would definitely not work because they have totally different characters. Nonetheless, he figures out that he has to prepare, just in case. Alon then sits down to write a letter for Kalia to try to appear friendly to her, just in case things go south. He sends Yaban to personally deliver the message, and Yaban assures him that he is going to do as told, while also assuring him that he is going to search for the children's whereabouts as well. After Yaban's departure, Alon starts wondering what Radon and Xiaolong are doing, because they are the only ones who have not been reaching out among the 5. Alon is worried that Xiaolong has fallen to her death, but at the same time, he believes that she should have ascended to a warrior's level if she found the gift he left for her. Apparently, he left an arms armor, which is the sacred beast of the Golden Mane tribe. When the armor is worn, it delivers a critical hit chance of 20%. Alon is convinced that Xiaolong should be doing well because he even left a source of funds for her, and the land where he sent her is one where power can be seized through strength. Meanwhile, in the desert nation colony, Xiaolong is actually having the best of times. She found the arms dressing left for her as a gift, and she is entirely grateful for it. Everything she heard when she was a kid about the Golden Mane tribe appears to be true. She had heard about the heirloom, which has been passed down for hundreds of years, and it grants power and divine authority. Xiaolong obtained the heirloom, and she has faced all the trials and challenges presented by the heirloom. Even though it was tough, she was able to face every obstacle head-on because she could remember when she was saved by Alan's grace, when she was still a mere test subject. By saving her, Alan gave her the power to be able to enact vengeance on the black dragon who wiped out her parents. Because of this, Xiaolong figures out that it is Alan's wish for her to become the greatest gladiator alive. In addition, she is expected to gather the scattered Golden Mane tribe and restore it to glory with the power she has been given. Hyped about everything she has been through, Xiaolong is finally ready to do what is needed for Alan, her savior and the Beastkin, while making sure she wipes out her nemesis, the Black Dragon. Later on, Yaban tells Alan that he has some information about Xiaolong. Apparently she has been given a name, the Golden Flash, because of how she operates in colony. Alan is pleased to hear that Xiaolong is doing just fine. Alan then asks about Radon, but Yaban says there is a bit of info about him, even though they are not entirely sure if it is reliable. Suddenly, Alan turns to Yaban, asking him why he is lazing around when he is supposed to be busy. Yaban is confused when he hears this because he has basically finished everything that Alan ordered him to do. Alan then cuts in saying they need to prepare early because it takes about a month just to get to the magic tower, but this comes as news to Alan. Alan acts like a fool, asking Yaban if he didn't mention it to him. Yaban refuses to argue with him because he is already used to the way he does things. Yaban then mentions that it takes only weeks to reach the green magic tower, but Alan corrects him, saying they are going to the blue magic tower. Apparently the blue magic tower is near the labyrinth city, and because it is far, Yaban decides to start getting their things ready. Alan crashes on the couch thinking about the exhausting carriage journey that he is about to embark on. However, he has no choice because the item needed to support his small mana core is at the blue magic tower. Alan can testify that the labyrinth city is filled with loads of memories because he did a lot of grinding when he was playing the game. Apparently the labyrinth in the center of the city was considered endless, but the deeper the player goes, the better items that can be gotten from there. Even though thousands of players devoted themselves to the labyrinth, no one ever reached the end of it. The group chat was always noisy with players complaining about how much they had tried to reach the end of the labyrinth to no avail. Just like in the game, relics and artifacts are discovered in the labyrinth, which is why certified magic appraisers are found in the city. This then reminds Alan of Rhine, who says she will be taking the appraiser exam anytime soon. Alan is confident that with the type of talent that she has, she is going to pass the exam pretty easily. At the same time, he is worried that the gift he left for Rena is too small, since it is nothing but an equipment appraisal. However, he is prepared to provide more support if the gift is deemed not enough. Talking about the labyrinth city, Lartania. It is a city of mercenaries and explorers, which is governed by no one. Located in the city is a secret appraisal shop called Merd. Because of the quality services it provides, most of the shop's customers are nobles and A-rank explorers, and among the said nobles is the city lord himself. He is seen in the shop appraising what appears to be a flame-generating device, and the attendant is Rhine. Rhine is wearing a weird device on her face, and with this, she is able to tell the lord what he is supposed to know about the device. The lord is happy with her contribution as usual, and he praises her for it. After the lord is gone, Rhine takes off the device and looks around the shop, since she is now alone. She narrates that the shop is famous, thanks to the distinctive service that it delivers, which is a gift for Alon. Apparently, in the letter he sent to her back then, he had told her to become an appraiser. But she didn't understand it at first. She knows that everything they are doing is to get rid of the bad guys, but she never saw any reason as to why she needed to become an appraiser. This was her conviction until she found the gift that was left behind for her by Alon. The relic given to her was known as the Eye of the Tail, which is a relic that quickly identifies items below a certain mana threshold to aid appraisal. Rhine was entirely blown away because what she saw was totally different from what appeared in the books stored in the library. After lifting the seals, the imprint came to life, and she realized that to defeat the bad guys, she had to upgrade the relic. She considered it an ability and a means to offer sacrifices, and since then, she has been working on the relic. With the time she has spent with the device, Rhine finally realized that Alon gave her a job only she could do, and she believed that everything she is doing is aimed toward the elimination of the Black Wolf. 3 weeks later, Alon and Yaban arrive at the Blue Tower, and they meet the tower's vice master, who tells them that the tower's master is currently not available. The vice master, Pitia Clint, tells them to state their business and get their asses out of the tower. The moment Alon sees her, he remembers her from the game. Apparently, she is a talented mage who went on to reach the 8th circle and even became the tower master in her early 20s. It is known that the magic tower possesses great combat power, and it monopolizes the production of specific necessities, which grants it the status equal to nobility. The authority of a vice master who has gone above humanity is considered godlike, but even with how scary everything appears to be, Alon casually introduces himself. Alon tells Pitia that he is there concerning the time rift because he can remove it. The time rift is a fissure connected to an unknown subspace, which is generated in places where magic is heavily used, and it creates anomalies that cause massive damage. The moment Alon stated his business, Pitia scanned his ability with her observation eyes, and she was disappointed with what she saw. She immediately tells Alon to leave, and this shocks him. Alon tries to argue, but Pitia flares up in anger, saying there are a bunch of people who have come to her saying the same thing. Alon refuses to back down, telling Pitia to just guide her to where the rift is. Pitia continues to remain defensive, and she assumes that Alon is looking for a big win to flip his already tarnished reputation. Pitia even gets angrier, and she unleashes a mana pressure that makes her look even scarier than before. Alon shrinks in fear, but he remembers that he is desperate and cannot give up. Alon steps forward, telling Pitia that he is going to sign over his entire fortune if he fails to remove the time rift. Pitia believes that Alon is still spewing trash, and Alon tells her that he is ready to swear a mana oath if that is what she wants. Alon points out the fact that this is not a bad deal for just a tiny moment of her time, and after thinking it over, she agrees. Pitia then takes Alon to the room where the rift is located, and she reminds him that all of his fortune is hers if he fails to remove the rift. Alon smiles, assuring Pitia that it will never happen. Deep down, Pitia wonders if Alon is just plain stupid or brave, but she is convinced that he is stupid. When talking about time rifts, there is usually no reason to close them before, since they spit out artifacts and vanish naturally after 3 months. Because of this, research on the time rift stopped, and no mage has ever closed one manually, but the Blue Magic Tower has been struggling with the time rift in their building for over 2 years. Now standing in front of the time rift, Alon takes a moment to watch it, and Pitia makes fun of him, suggesting that he leave since he can't do anything about it. Just then, Pitia notices that Alon is holding his hand, which is a method of using one's hand as a medium. Pitia remembers that ancient magic tomes mention this, and it is nothing but a legend. Pitia believes that Alon is just messing around, and she mocks him, telling him to stop playing around. Suddenly everything goes blank, and Pitia realizes that everything has stopped moving. She immediately activates her observation eye, and this is when she sees the giant red fissure standing in Alon's presence, and being the talented mage that she is, she can feel the overwhelming power in front of her. Before she knows it, she finds herself under the influence of the greater power staring her in the eyes. The overwhelming being moves closer to her and makes its demand known to her, and as sweat runs down her face, she agrees to the said demands. By the time everything clears out, the rift has closed, and Alon is standing in the distance casually, just like he always does. In his hand is also the relic that he came for. and he is pleased that everything went smoothly and easily. He turns to Pedia to tell her that he is going to take the relic, and instead of her usual mean self, Pedia appears to be totally meek. She tells Alon that he is free to do whatever he wants, and she promises not to tell anyone about it. Alon is confused, and he assumes that his bluff failed to work on the girl. Alon then walks toward her, but she quickly moves backward while assuring Alon that she can keep a secret. Alon is surprised to see the lady acting so strangely, but he ignores her and tells Yebun that it is time they leave. Suddenly, Pedia stops him, telling him that she has a mana recovery potion for him, and it was personally made by her. Alon is blown away by the fact that he is getting a potion that was made by the tower's vice master herself. Alon is still checking out the potion when Pedia moves closer to ask him if he likes it. This leaves Alon even more confused because he doesn't want to believe that Pedia is doing all of these because she is thankful for the fact that he helped close the gate. Pedia continues acting weird as she tells Alon that she is going to make sure she follows the request that Aelin made. In fact, she is ready to take a mana oath if that will make Aelin believe her. Before Alon can call her attention to the fact that she is misunderstanding things, Pedia has activated the oath process. And while under oath, she swears to keep everything to herself. With this, Alon concluded his business at the Blue Magic Tower, and he acquired the relic he wanted with 5 bottles of potion and an oath. As they ride away from the tower, Yebun stares at the relic, which is not more than a bracelet, and he asks Alon if this is all that he went for. Even though it doesn't seem like much, Alon assures Yebun that he really needs the bracelet. It is known as the Seal of the Unholy One, and it has a gem embedded in it that can absorb and store mana from the atmosphere. Alon is happy that the device is working perfectly, and even though the storage space isn't much, it is more than enough to compensate for his mana hole. Alon believes that it is enough for him since his goal is magical research and self-preservation, not fighting. Suddenly it dawns on him that it is quite strange the way Pedia acted towards him before he left the tower. The level of respect she awarded him at some point left Alon to wonder if Pedia was making fun of him. Alon remembers that it was just like that when Kalia saw him the last time. However, he doesn't think he has anything to worry about, since he believes that he won't see any of them again. Meanwhile, in Altea, Loria is hosting Kalia. The two exchange pleasantries with no sign of bad blood between them, all thanks to Alon's influence. Kalia is glad that she followed Alon's advice and came to see Loria. It was during their conversation that they both realized that Alon was far ahead of them. Nonetheless, it was basically an alliance that was formed thanks to Alon's command. The two had no choice but to work together synonymously, since they were both beneath Alon, and a power struggle would be ultimately useless. Loria then asks Kalia why she has come to visit her even though their scheduled conference is the following month. Kalia then reveals that Alon sent a letter regarding her last visit. Kalia shows Loria the letter, and in the letter, Alon talks about Kalia's last visit to the manor and how things played out. He adds that a few other nobles have grumbled to him about it too, and judging from the letter it appears to be a regular apology letter, but the girls believe that there is a hidden message in it. Since they have come to this conclusion, the two believe that it would be better if they discuss it. The two waste no time dissecting the nobles that they have in the kingdom and which faction they belong to. After so much thought into it, the two come to the same conclusion that Alon doesn't like all of the nobles and their useless factions. With this in mind, they assume that Alon wants to kill all of the nobles. The two ladies believe that Alon wants to rid the kingdom of the existing nobles and create a new regime. The two basically overthink everything and come to the same conclusion that Alon wants to be at the very top. Since they have been eager to help him, they start discussing their plans. Meanwhile, at the Blue Magic Tower, the Tower Master has arrived and he demands to know all of the details surrounding Alon's visit. At the same time, Alon is only worried about how he wants to get home quickly so he can receive Utia's monthly letter.